National Clinical Leaders Programme is a one-year programme that consists of 4 two-day modules, as well as ongoing assessments over a one-year period. You look at the ways, the different methodologies to implement improvement. You look at different leadership types. You analyse your own leadership type and skills, and how we can better benefit the NHS. In addition to this, you implement those skills by doing a service transformation or quality improvement project. Along the way, there is also the opportunity to gain a level 7 certificate in strategic management and leadership. My project was in metastatic bone disease. With such a great number of cancers newly diagnosed in the UK annually, and also with 2/3 of those developing metastatic bone disease, it's an area I'm really interested in. The diagnosis is life-changing and it's overwhelming, and for many, it actually means that the disease is no longer curable. The diagnosis period can be a little bit prolonged in that multiple investigations are required in a short period of time, and also MDTs meetings have to go forward in order to determine how to best treat a patient. While this is occurring, it's a real big time period for patients where they find everything very overwhelming and uncertain. I wanted to do something completely different to any other study I'd done before. So I actually performed a qualitative study to try and understand patients' experiences during this diagnosis and early treatment phase, and see if I could find any information that could be useful for patients to know about with regards to their condition, the investigations and the early management of these. So I actually did a qualitative research project where I interviewed 6 patients and their families. And I used a semi-structured interview where I asked them about aspects of their care that was good, areas which could be improved, and information that they'd wish they'd been given at the start of their experience. I then transcribed all of these interviews, and they were analysed using Atlas TI. This then led to key subject areas and common themes that could then be addressed. 20 key subject areas were found, and these resulted in 5 key themes. These were areas of the hospital services that could be improved, the different ways that patients presented and the variations thereof. Uncertainty for patients was a common theme. They didn't understand what was going on. They often had no idea why they were attending hospitals. Time to diagnosis and time to treatment were often quite prolonged, and patients were keen to gain information as quickly as possible. This is an example which shows common quotes resulting in themes and key areas. Unsurprisingly, I think for most, car parking was a really common theme. Patients often reported waiting 45 minutes to park. Even one such patient reported that there was a punch-up in the car park. Some patients report regularly leaving and trying to get to hospital 2 hours before their appointment just so they could park. And in fact, one patient said that his wife couldn't attend a key clinical appointment because she was trying to park. So he had to do it on his own. Other common themes were patients didn't know why they were turning up to the hospital, what their appointment was and who it was for, whether it was for an investigation, what type of investigation. And so I think the biggest area for improvement was communication. Other things that they wanted to know were who were the key staff members that they needed to contact and how did they do so? And could we provide GPs and community staff members with more information about their conditions? Because often they didn't know what was going on. They wanted to know why they were attending clinical appointments and what they were for. General information about their condition. Also practical information. How do they get to the hospital? Which is the closest entrance to the hospital for the department they were going to? Which car parks were the best to nearest to that department, and what do they cost, what they should bring to hospital if they needed to come in, as well as useful information regarding the diagnosis and investigations. For example, what's a CT scan, how long is it going to last, what's an MRI scan, and how long is it going to last. Also, should they be taking painkillers prior to the investigation? Other areas that I've also mentioned were car parking and wards. The food was terrible, and unfortunately they could be quite noisy. And these are areas that we could potentially quite easily address. Based on the themes, I felt that an area that we could look at was creating a patient information booklet. This is a permanent written record of useful information that the patient can repeatedly view, and as can their friends and family. And it reinforces that verbal information patients are given. So the next phase is to create this patient information booklet, which has started, however, has been delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The aim of this was that patients find this useful, and as a secondary effect, it will improve patient satisfaction. This will then need to be re-audited and improved. So looking at the leadership points from this, the biggest thing I learned was that that staff are really, really busy. Rarely staff have much of a free moment in their day. So in order to create a new project and introduce something new, this is going to place a burden on many members of staff. So they really need to understand what it's for and how it can benefit patients. So create a shared vision for them to be able to help you with this. The other thing that can be really tricky is future management of a project. As a registrar, you move on from hospitals. Even as a fellow, you do so. So ensuring these projects continue once you've gone can be quite tricky. Overall, I would say I learned a great deal from the BOA leadership program, and it's something I really wish I'm glad I did, and I would highly recommend others to do the same. Thank you.
So thank you to Tony there for that presentation. So in order of time, because we're struggling, we've had a late start, we'll move swiftly on to Tony number 2, Tony Bateman, who's a consultant in Derby.
Hello. Thank you for connecting with me today as I share with you a project that I've been involved in at the Royal Derby Spinal Centre. My name's Tony Bateman. I'm a consultant spinal surgeon, and I've been developing an enhanced recovery programme around spinal surgery. I was fortunate enough to participate in the BOA National Clinical Leaders Programme, and I'd like to thank UKSSB for their sponsorship that enabled me to participate in that programme. The background to enhanced recovery is quite extensive, and we already have evidence from general surgery and also hip and knee arthroplasty about the effectiveness of programs designed to reduce length of stay and improve patient care. There's been recent interest from the spinal surgical community in terms of how we can take the lessons learned from those areas and apply them to our patients in spinal surgery. So the aims and objectives for this project were to develop and then introduced an enhanced recovery program for our patients having lumbar spine surgery at UHDB. It was felt that this should align with our organisational aims, and this enabled me to get wider support from across the hospital to help implement this change. As part of the programme, we were encouraged to develop the methods behind implementing this change project. A useful part of this for me was the nomination of an executive sponsor to help gain wider organisational support. We then went on to perform baseline audits that we used to inform the need for change. We formed clinical reference groups, and a wide variety of stakeholders were involved in developing the programme to ensure that we had representation from across the trust. We performed a literature review to look at the best available evidence for what we could include in the programme, and we then developed some materials in the form of a booklet and a supporting video to help implement the programme. The launch date was set, and we then outlined some evaluation measures we could use to evaluate how effective the change had been. Who did we get involved? Well, this is some of the team that were involved, and as you can see, it's a wide variety of people, and it represents a huge diversity of thought and experience, as well as a diversity of professions. This was really useful, and early on in the project, we conducted some virtual focus groups where we explored with people what their expectations for this program might be and how we might best deliver that. Some of the themes that came out around expectation for the project were that it was about managing patient expectation, stratified therapy input, goal setting for patients, and using patient information to inform this process. We wanted to ensure that we optimized the whole pathway as well as just the surgical moment within it. Some of the outcome measures that we chose were clinical ones to evaluate whether we were actually improving patient care and certainly not leading to detrimental care. We looked at length of inpatient stay and return to work times, but also looked at the process measures that were involved in terms of the reasons for delay in discharge and the delivery costs of the process. Part of the baseline audit that we conducted was really interesting in that it showed that even within a group of surgeons working in the same organization, for one type of procedure, lumbar decompression in this example, there was a variety of average length of stay, even within our own unit. So where have we got to with this project? Well, we used a joined up approach, and it was great to get that team together. We've conducted some focus groups and some literature reviews and identified things that we want to incorporate, such as the use of some MIS techniques, along with intrathecal diamorphine, cell salvage, and also stratified rehabilitation and phased functional rehabilitation. I've managed to bring together a core team to develop the pathway, and we've produced some business cases for MIS equipment. We've produced the materials that will support patients through this pathway. We were due to launch in March 2020. Unfortunately, COVID hit, things have been a little delayed. Where are we up to now? Well, I've learned a lot from this, and once we're able to establish this program, I hope to fully implement the program, evaluate its effectiveness, and we've got interest from partners in industry to help us do this potentially. What have I learned? I've learned about the value of efficient team working in delivering this sort of care, and we've learned about electronic communications. Another key thing here for me is the role of civility in developing a productive team. I'd be very happy to take any questions you have. Thank you for your time.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. So in the interest of time, I'll switch straight over to Niall to start on the STIG.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, it's my privilege to introduce the STIG feedback. I'm thrilled to introduce Alex Durst, Alex Gubrin, and Shvaiden Aziz, who are our first three STIGs in the UK and Ireland, who are at the moment in Birmingham, Sheffield, and Cardiff. In case we're out of time, I'm also thrilled to announce that we've now appointed the STIGs for next year. Rajan Jandu, who's an orthopedic trainee, who we hope is going to go to North Midlands and Oswestry, and Sean Saboali, who's a neurosurgical trainee, who's going to go to Liverpool, hopefully. So it's very exciting times, working very well. So we'll kick off with Alexander Durst's talk.
Good afternoon.
Alex.
Good afternoon. My name's Al Durst. I'm the first STIG trainee based at the Cardiff Spines unit. I've been asked to elaborate on what the STIG is. And basically, in a nutshell, the Joint Committee on Surgical Training and Health Education England run 8 trainee interface group fellowships, which are all currently pre-CCT, with combined training in surgical subspecialities with 2 parent specialities, such as hand, cleft, and oncoplastic breast surgery. The aim of the spinal TIG, or STIG fellowship, is to build a well-rounded spinal surgeon through curriculum-based neurosurgical and orthopedic training, regardless of the fellow's base speciality. I first heard about the proposed STIGs in 2017, and having worked with 4 different hand TIG fellows who all ordered their experience, I was immediately interested. The applications went live at the start of my ST8 year, and I was fortunate enough to be awarded the fellowship alongside Alex and Shvaiden. I chose Cardiff because they were already an integrated unit with a neurosurgeon. They had additional opportunities to work with the neurosurgical department and had recently become a major trauma centre. Cardiff also has a diverse caseload, including all aspects of adult and paediatric deformity. In fact, tomorrow we'll be detethering a diastem, and next week we have a vector for thoracic insufficiency. The kicker for picking Cardiff was personal. My only stipulation pre-fellowship was being allowed to get married in August 2020 with a full honeymoon, and the department was supportive and obliged. But COVID happened, and it seemed as if the fellowship wasn't even going to happen. But with the support of the department, not only was I able to start my fellowship on time in June, but we also had our wedding and a full Antiguan honeymoon for a couple of weeks with empty beaches. As with most people, this past year has been a roller coaster. However, with the support I've received in Cardiff through a structured curriculum, I've been able to build strong clinical and operative foundation for my next fellowship in Canada and my future career as a consultant. As an educationalist, I believe that the model of a combined curriculum-based fellowship, which is similar to that which is already employed in Canada and in the United States, is the future of our speciality. The STIG has not only demonstrated that in how the three of us are being trained, but as part of the role, we have also been invited to help shape the future of the fellowship. I would definitely recommend the STIG to any current trainee with an interest in spines, as well as to all the units around the country to become host centres. I believe that your participation will continue to spearhead the advancement of our speciality over the decade to come. Thank you very much.
Alex, thank you very much. You mentioned that the centres there, we now have 10 centres in the UK all signed up to this, and there are 2 more centres applying at the moment. If any other centre is keen to be involved, please get in contact with us. We have also been really very, very fortunate of 3 outstanding trainees to start the whole programme moving forwards for us. So let's now listen to Schweiden, who's been in Birmingham, or is in Birmingham.
Hello, my name is Schweiden Jeans, and I am fortunate enough to be one of the Spinal Training Interface Group Fellows. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you my experience of the TIG Fellowship so far. I'd first of all like to thank Mr. Niall Eames for making this TIG Fellowship possible. So thank you. I've trained in Leicester under some great surgeons who have taken the time in training me both from a clinical point of view, but also from research from when I joined as an ST3. Leicester is a trauma unit with a predominant adult practice. This has helped me identify gaps in my training, and when choosing where to go for my TIG fellowship, Birmingham was a very clear contender. It was geographically close to Leicester, but it also offered me the oncology side, the fact that they had a paediatric deformity service, and also a major trauma centre at the QE. So far, in the first 6 months, I have been predominantly at the Children's Hospital, but I would also be placed at the Royal Orthopaedic Hospital. My activities have been that of a paediatric deformity fellow. I would attend MDTs. My on-calls were at the Royal Orthopaedic Hospital, and plus only adults. Clinics and theatres were spinal paediatric deformity only. I had the opportunity to participate in audit, quality improvement projects, as well as standard operating procedures. These are the paediatric deformity surgeons that have trained me and have taken me from somebody who has never done paediatric deformity before into someone who is able to make reasonable plans, and no question has ever been deemed as inappropriate. I was able to voice all my queries and have some reasonable discussions with every single one of them. So I can only thank them for their patience, as I'm sure some of my questions were pretty bad. I would also like to thank Mr. Newton-Eade for giving Birmingham the opportunity to house one of the first STIG fellows. And Helen and Amy, the incredible nurses that give our patients the best possible care. They are so approachable. They have welcomed me onto the team and have been of great support to me personally. My experience has been wide. It has included early onset scoliosis, syndromic, as well as the standard adolescent idiopathic scoliosis. I was able to undertake posterior surgery, and despite COVID's second wave, we were able to do anterior surgery too. This is a picture of my last day at the Children's Hospital, where I've made some great friends, and it's a shame that I couldn't take a picture with every single one of them due to the COVID restrictions, but I've had an incredible time there. My thoughts are, I would highly recommend this STIG fellowship. The experience that I have had has been vast. I have enjoyed every single moment of it. I would advise anyone wishing to take up a STIG fellowship is to have some clear objectives, find out where you're deficient, where areas that you want to spend a bit more time, and then go for it. But keep an open mind. I initially thought, oncology might be something that I want to consider, but I've completely fallen in love with how rewarding pediatric deformity is. Next, I'm off to work with Mr. Alan Furtado at the Queen Elizabeth, and I'm really looking forward to that and working with a neurosurgeon and seeing how their minds work and how they tackle problem solving in terms of adult pathologies. So I look forward to it. Watch this space. Thank you very much for listening.
Shvaiden, thank you very much. It's great to hear how successful that's been. The third fellow is Alex. Alex, I hope I press this button. Yep, here we go. It's Alex. Thank you, Alex.
My name is Alex. The inaugural Spinal Trainee Interface Group Fellows, and my fellowship is taking place at the Sheffield Teaching Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust. The first unit of the 3 sites that I'll be working on is the Sheffield Children's Hospital. This is where I'll be involved and learn more about paediatric spinal pathology, including paediatric deformity for various etiologies such as neuromuscular, idiopathic and congenital. Here I'll be taking part in outpatient clinics, hopefully improving and developing my management plans and diagnostic skills, as well as my operative skills in this area as well. I'm very keen to work with the rest of the multidisciplinary team here, and I'm hoping to gain experience in the non-operative treatment for paediatric spinal pathology as well. And the main reason, one of the big things I want to take away from my year is really having a fairly solid algorithm for management solutions and plans that I want to implement for this population. The next centre that I'll be attending is the Northern General Hospital in Sheffield, which is the major trauma centre in the region. This is obviously the main orthopaedic adult elective unit as well in normal times. Obviously here I'll be seeing a lot of the traumatic spinal pathology that we come across, including polytrauma, and one of my big takeaways for the year will be having a very, very good method of managing trauma and good evidence base for it. Obviously there'll be decisions made about operative versus non-operative treatment, and that's something I'd very much like to improve on as well. We are already taking part in elective outpatient clinics, and obviously and those are still ongoing, but the elective orthopaedic lists will be starting to get underway in something like a normal fashion over the coming weeks, so that's something to look forward to as well. The other things that I will be taking part in Northern General is obviously the MDT meetings, specifically focusing on subsections of spinal pathology such as oncology, infection and deformity. The third site is that of the Royal Hallamshire Hospital in Sheffield. This houses the neurosurgical department, and here I'll be taking part in on operating lists and complex outpatient spinal complex clinics as well. Here, in terms of the differing operative techniques that the neurosurgeons might use, I'll also be getting involved in learning more about navigation, which is something that I don't have very much experience of before, so very much looking forward to that. The experience so far from Sheffield has been incredible. I've been welcomed by engaged, enthusiastic trainers that have bent over backwards to make me feel welcome. They're very supportive and engaged in my development, my progress, and my improvements. We've taken time to make sure that we identify all the quality indicators in the syllabus that were formulated from the JCST STIG panel, and to carry on progressing. And one of the big things is that I'm also going to get involved with the consultant trainers that all have other areas of interest as well, such as research, management, leadership, and education, and getting an idea as to those sort of skill sets worked within a consultant spinal surgeon's work plan will be really interesting as well. But there are many fantastic units that have been put forward to be one of the STIG units in general, but for me the Sheffield unit is ideal because of all of everything I've mentioned really, and from the very engaged training experience, and I would recommend it to anyone that wishes to apply for the STIG, which is a hugely prestigious fellowship. Thank you very much for your time.
Alex, thank you very much. Sorry, time is obviously beating us here. We haven't really got time for any questions, but it's been wonderful to hear that all those various CLP, the BOA CLP and the STIG things working so well. It's fantastic. We'll keep working at that. Obviously, everyone's in the chat room. Please talk to anyone you want, myself, Lee, about any questions. But that's this session finished. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you all. Good job, folks.